Hello, dear students. Let's continue our discussion on ER model, under which we will learn relationship between the entities. Okay, let's see in this video one-to-many relationship. First of all, relationship here means that two entities can be related to each other. Let's see what's the meaning of it. Now imagine our client or our customer has given this description or this requirement. Let's read the requirement very carefully. Every employee must work in exactly one department. Just check that a particular employee cannot work in two departments simultaneously. And must work, just check, that means we cannot have an employee who doesn't work in any department. It's compulsory that employee must be assigned a single department. Further, it is written, but a department can contain more than one employee. Obviously, if you think of accounts department can have, say, 6 employees working. That is more than one employees. Now, if you think of this problem, then you will immediately understand that employee has to be one of the entities and another entity is supposed to be department. And we know that entities are shown in the form of rectangles. Now, every employee can have or rather has attributes. We show them in the oval. For example, employee will have employee number. And let's underline this to indicate that employee number will be a very important key called primary key, or you can say the record key. Further, every employee will have name, salary, and so on. Talking about department, I mean, every employee can have date of birth and so on, but I am not drawing these attributes in big detail. Now, every department is assigned some number. Let's call it as DNO, department number. This will be unique number given to every department. So let's underline this. This is also a unique key or unique attribute. Then every department has some name. Let's say D name. And every department has a location where it is located. Let's say D location. Now you see these two entities, although are different entities, but they are actually related to each other. And the relationship between the entities is shown as a rhombus. And we just connect these two entities to this rhombus. Now the description of the relationship is written on the relationship. Like if I say works for. Now you can read this as employee works for department. That's what has been given in the requirement by the client. So this is the relation which we are talking about in this particular video, relationship. Now, any relationship between the two entities has or is recognized by cardinality. Cardinality. The cardinality can be one to one, or it can be one to many, or it can be many to one, or indeed many to many. Now, which kind of cardinality does this relationship have? It is basically one to many cardinality. How do you show this cardinality on this particular ER diagram? Okay, just see, it is one to many. Now, how do you show this? Is, or rather, is it one to many or many to one? Let's put this question. Is it one to many or many to one? How do you read this? Okay, so to explain this cardinality, let's take another type of picture or a diagram. What I will do is, I will draw employee as a set. Just think of this employee entity. And here is the department entity. Just leave that ER diagram aside for some time and imagine we have 6 employees. Let's say E1, E2, E3, E4, E5 and E6. 6 employees. And imagine we have 3 departments: D1, D2, D3. Okay. Now you know that every employee works for department. Then we will show a set for works for. This is a set for relationship. And we will show independent nodes or points over here. You will know very shortly why we are showing these points. Now let's say that this employee E1 is working for department D1. Then we will join this E1 to D1. But we will join E1 to D1 through a node of works for. Okay. And once the node is utilized, this node is utilized, we will not use it again. So let's say E2, this employee E2 is also working for the same department D1. Then you may feel that why don't we take this line from E2 to this node itself, and then anyway this node is connected to D1? No, we won't do that. We will use a new node of works for, and then we will take that to D1. Let's say E3 works for D2. So we will connect E3 to D2 through works for. And E4 also works for D2. So we will show this as a relationship as E3 works for D2. And let's say E5 also works for D2. And let's say E6 works for D3. Check that D3 is having only one employee, but that's allowed because in the requirement it is said that department can have more than one employees. The department can have more than one employee means there can be a department with exactly one employee. There is no harm in that. Now observe something about cardinality. Which type of relationship is this? One to many or many to one? Think over this. If you see any employee, see the employee set. We have got set of 6 employees. If you see this, you will see that from each element of this set, from each employee, there is only one line coming out. From every element of this set, there is only one line coming out. We say employee is one side. This is one side. And why there is only one line coming out? Why not multiple lines? Because it is told in the requirement that every employee must work in exactly one department. So we cannot have something like this. E1 works for D1. This is departments and this is works for. And E1 works for D2. You cannot have multiple lines coming out of any element of employee set because that's the requirement given by the client that every employee must work exactly in one department. So this is one side. You can check. What do you say about department side? See, any department, can have multiple lines, just check. That means, to say it properly, any element of department set can participate multiple times in the relation. We say this is many side, n side. Because see, this department is participating thrice. There can be some department which participate 10 times if that department has 10 employees. So in general, we say this is department is n side and employee is one side. Wait, don't come to any conclusion. You may then say, okay, that means this is one to many relation because this is one side, one to many. Just don't come to any conclusion right now. But this diagram initially, the set diagram is very useful or helpful for beginners to understand what do you mean by 1 and what do you mean by n. Now coming to our diagram, ER diagram. See, we want to write the cardinality on this line and on this line. So we want to know whether this will be one side and this will be n side, or whether this will be n side and this will be one side. What it will be exactly. Now what we do is, in the set diagram, we have got employee as one side and department as n side. Then in the ER diagram, we exactly swap these roles of 1 and n. We will write n on employee side. Just be careful about this. N is written on, see this, on employee side. And we will be writing 1. Just give me some time. We will be writing 1 on department side. Surprised everyone. How is this happening? Actually, 1 should have been written on the employee line, but n is written on the employee line. Why? Once I finish the discussion of this, you will fully agree that this should be the thing done in the ER diagram. What am I talking about? Imagine this employee, is having 6 employees, like just as I was showing in the set diagram. Imagine there is an employee E1. Now, if you ask this employee E1, hello, how many departments you work for? This employee will say, yes, I work for department, but I work exactly for one department. That means the answer given by this employee is that if you take me to department, you will take me only to one department. Watch this one here on the department side. Watch this. Ask E2, some other employee, some other person. Hello, which department? How many departments you work for? You ask this person. This person will say, yes, I work for department, but if you take me to department, you can take me only to one department because I work only for one department. Okay. So that's why 1 has been written on the department side. Now let's imagine that there is a department D1, just as I was explaining in the set. There is a department D2. Let's ask this department D1, how many employees are there in your department? Then this place, department, can say, in my department, there are 3 employees. Can take us to 3 employees. Just check. That means if you ask any department, how many employees do you have? There can be more than one, more than one. I know that the diagram has become bit messy, but your teacher has done this to explain what is n and what is 1. Ask D2, how many employees you have? D2 will say, I have many employees. Look at that, many employees. Come again. Just repeat this with me. This is employee entity and this is department entity. And both are actually related with a relation called works for. And you can see, I will not show the attributes now. Imagine some attributes. Okay. And if you ask any employee, how many departments you work for, that person will say, I work only for one department. That's the way how you have to read it. If you ask any department how many employees are there, then you may be taken to many employees. This person works in my department, this person works, n employees. Okay? So if you look from this side, this is many to one. Many to one. Many to one. If you look from this side, why? Obviously we can look from this side. This is one to many. As such, many to one and one to many are not different. Hello, if you just twist this particular picture or put mirror image of this picture, put department on left side and employee on right side, you will get one to many. Let's take one more example. Let's say our college library has the following rule that every student every student can take more than one book. More than one book. I'm glad I have not seen such a library where any number of books are allowed to be taken by a student. But a particular book can be issued can be issued to only one student. Of course. I mean, if there is a book issued to Samir, then till Samir returns that book cannot be issued to anyone else. So book can lie or book can stay only with one student at any point of time. Now immediately you understand that there is an entity called student and there is an entity called book. Correct? And student will have a key attribute like roll number. Every student has unique roll number. Then every student will have name and so on. I am not wasting our time in drawing attributes. Every book will have book number, unique number given by librarian, then title of the book, author, and so on. But these two entities are related with a relation called student borrows book. Okay. Now think of it very quickly. If you ask a particular student how many books you have borrowed, student will say, I have borrowed this book, I have borrowed that book, I have borrowed many books. Because a student can borrow more than one book. That means book will be on n side. Okay. And if you ask a book that you are with which student, particular book, then the book will say, I am with this particular student, only one student at a time. That means this will be one. If you read like this, if you put this in natural language like English, if you ask questions to each entity on the left and right, there is no problem in understanding that this is one to many. One to many. Read it again. Any student can take many books. So many is on book side. But a book can be there only with one student at any point of time. So one is on the student side. I hope you have understood one to many relation, and more such references will be given in the later videos when we learn other type of relations like many to many and one to one. Thank you very much.